Is the Sweden Rock really your favorite festival?
Yeah, it's super cool. You know, and I know a lot of people there, of course, and it's always a pretty nice, cool lineup. So I think I've been there 15 years, maybe, something like that.
Okay, what's your name?
Michael.
Hello, Michael.
Hello.
And you're playing in the band Dark Tranquility.
Yes.
And since how long?
Since '89. So I started the band with some of my best friends in school. And when we were like 14, 15, we started playing guitar together, and we were into the same music. We lived on the same street in Gothenburg, and we had nothing better to do. And that's how it kind of got started. We ended up rehearsing in my parents' garage for a couple of years and just trying to figure out how to play and what to play and how to sound and how to write songs, basically. And yeah, so that's how it started, like 35 years ago.
And what's your parents' job?
My parents, my father's a banker, my mother's an architect. So they were kind of like, and we moved to this house where we had like an old garage that my grandfather built, and it was cold as hell in the winters and really warm in the summers, but we didn't care. We had somewhere to be and to practice, and that's all that we cared about. It was fantastic.
And were your parents hippies?
No, not at all. They're just regular working people. And of course they didn't really like the kind of music we played, and they were like, oh yeah, this is just a phase. Eventually you'll get tired of this and get a real job, you know. But my parents really know all my friends and they really like all of them, so they were just really happy that we were there, and instead of being out in the town doing drugs or drinking, whatever, we were just always at our house rehearsing and writing, so they kind of liked to have us close by, you know, where they could keep an eye on us.
And who was your first album?
Well, the first album was '93. It was called Skydancer, and yeah, I was 19 when we recorded it.
No. Who was the first band you did love?
Oh, I started like getting into synth and kind of like electronic music, and when I was maybe 12.
Beastie Boys.
No, it was more Depeche Mode and Kraftwerk, that kind of stuff. And then some people in school, they started listening to Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, and I thought that sounded super cool, and I wanted to be part of that. So I wrote. I told my parents, like, I want heavy metal music, and they bought Power Slave by Iron Maiden for me, and that was my first heavy metal record. And I think it was 11 or 12. So that's how it started for me. It was Iron Maiden.
And from that moment on, you wanted to be really famous?
No, I never thought of that at all, actually. It was just, when we started the band, we just wanted to write something that was different. That felt unique to us, and to write something that no one else was doing. Death metal was still kind of new as a genre. We kind of knew all the bands who were out there through tape trading and through reading fanzines and magazines. And we were in contact with a lot of bands because there were just not that many. And but then we just wanted to write, and we wanted to hang out and create something together. And just because we were old friends since we were kids, and the idea of just kind of creating something together and then see if someone else likes it, that's all that matters to us. So we didn't do it to be famous or to make any money or anything like that. That came later. Yeah.
Well, how came later? Did you who brought you the idea of wanting to write something different? Did you did you read a lot or
we listened to, of course, a lot of music, underground music at the time, and we read a lot of interviews about, you know, with other bands, and also the scene in Gothenburg at the time. There were a lot of our friends who started bands at the same time. So you went to their rehearsal rooms and you listened to them rehearse, and then you went to shows together. So we were very influenced and inspired by each other in the city. And then, of course, we were inspired by German bands like Creator and Sodom and Destruction, that kind of stuff. And we're inspired by a lot of American music as well. So it's just a matter of like, I like this, but don't like that. Let's take the best part of the music that we love and try to come up with something of our own. And I think that was the biggest challenge in the beginning, but also the reason why we started, so that we could do something that we felt maybe the metal scene at the time was missing. Most death metal bands were very, very aggressive, very heavy, but it wasn't very melodic. And the thrash scene was really, really heavy and fast, but not very melodic. But we also loved kind of speed metal like Halloween and Blind Guardian, stuff like that. So we wanted to have some of that into our music as well. So we wanted that heaviness and aggression, but also some melody. And at the time, in the early 90s, that was not a lot of bands did that. So that became our thing.
And what was in the press then? Did you read? Did you get music press imported, or did you have?
Yeah. I bought magazines from all over the world, and fanzines, of course. Like homemade magazines. I ordered from all over the world as well, and so yeah, that was writing letters and having pen pals, and it was hugely important. So I was pen pals with a lot of bands in England and America, and also journalists from America and from Germany. So that's how I kind of got into the scene and kind of learned as much as I could about it and about this music and what we could do and who to talk to and what record companies to contact once we had some proper music and that kind of stuff. So of course that was incredibly important. And of course this was decades before internet and stuff. So this was it's not easy, but it was fun.
Cool. So, what was then your next approach?
I mean, at the time it was basically, back then it was all about writing songs and see what we can come up with. And then once we felt like, we have something here, we released our first album, but maybe that didn't work that well. And then our second album, The Gallery, came out in '95, and that's when everything kind of started for us. We had a cool record label in France, and at the same time some of our friends from In Flames and At the Gates released albums as well, and all of a sudden like this Gothenburg sound was a thing, and we started touring, and that's been ongoing ever since. So ever since '95 it's just been touring and recording, and this kind of album cycles that just run for a few years, and then you get back to the studio, write something else, and then we start the tour again. So that's how it's been.
And so how many days off do you get on the tour?
It depends. The fewer the better for me, because I don't want to be at home. I don't want to be away from home more than I have to. So we only have days off if there's no other option, basically. If we have to travel really far, all the way down to Italy, for instance, or in America, there's a lot of distance to cover in between cities. So sometimes we have to just, stop on halfway, have a day off, then drive the next day. But I don't like it. I don't need it. I don't think we need it. We like to perform every night.
No sightseeing, no.
Well, I'll do that all the time. We do that all the time. So
Yes.
we love it, because normally, most times we have a lot of hours to kill during the day. So then we, take in the sights and travel around, and so I love that. That's a big part of touring for me.
You document that.
Yeah, maybe on Instagram and just photos and stuff like that, of course. And so we've been fortunate. We've been everywhere, and I try to see as much as I can from every city. Berlin I know so well. I don't have to go out here. I've been a million times. But.
How was touring India?
We were in India. What was it? We haven't toured. We've only done festivals, and it was. I mean, people were awesome. The crowd was excellent, but it's also very stressful because there are so many people, and the bureaucracy and that kind of stuff is just insane. So once we got delayed there because they told us we didn't have the right stamp in our passport, whatever. So we got stuck there for 4 days. So it's stuff like that makes us not want to go, but at the same time the people are awesome and the food is great and the country is beautiful. But it's very difficult for bands to go there. To put it mildly.
And are you writing already a new album then? Are you playing already? No, are you writing new material?
No, not now. This is the first part of the tour we do for Empire Signals, so it's only been out for a couple of months, and we started the tour in the US, and now this is the first. Tonight is the first European show for the new album. So we're gonna travel maybe for 2 more years, I think, and then maybe we start working on new material. It's gonna take a while.
So, did you always tour with a standard, or were you sleeping the first years on couches, or?
No, actually, we've been fortunate. Even the first tour we ever did in '95 was in a nice nightliner tour bus. So yeah, we've been very fortunate when it comes to that for some reason. So we never did that. We never drove our own van or whatever. We never done that, and so it's always been tour buses, and varying quality, obviously. But so now I'm really happy that we skipped that part because I hear so many horror stories about how miserable that can be, and we've never done it. We had some rough tours, of course, but never in that way.
And you got a good contract with the French label, do friends and networking and.
Yeah. Now we are on a label here in Berlin, actually, essentially, and we've been with them since '99. They're amazing, really, really cool people and great company. So it's very easy to work with people you trust, who understand us and are big fans as well. So it's super easy. I love it.
And do you have what's your next goal? Do you want to get a real Grammy still, or is that?
No. I don't care about those things. We have one Grammy in Sweden, but it's no. I think what our goal is to just improve and to become a better band, both in the studio and on stage, and make sure that we use our full potential every night, and also have a cooler and more striking stage show. We work a lot with video and lights and especially video, because our original guitar player Niklas Sundin, who does all the album artwork, also does video stuff for us, from animation to digital design, and so that's a big part of it too. To have this visual show that complements the music and complements our kind of visual identity that I really love. So it's just constantly improving. That's for me. That's the goal, to just keep doing this and doing it better with every tour.
And what music are you listening to at the moment?
I listen to all kinds of stuff. I listen to a lot of kind of depressing doom stuff. I listen to instrumental music. The last couple of days I went to see Russian Circles. It's one of my favorite bands. Paul Bearer I saw day before yesterday, and that's mind-blowingly fantastic. And I listened a lot to Marillion, just because I just saw Fish on his last ever tour. So I listen to a lot of different music. Mostly it's proggy stuff or instrumental stuff.
And what inspired you? What's the album Momentum called about?
Moment, yeah. It was when it was written. It was kind of just in the beginning of the pandemic, and we were in the studio at the same time, which was kind of crazy, because all of a sudden we had nothing in our calendar. We were just in the studio. We had no idea if we could release the album or if we could tour. We didn't have any clue. So it became kind of a different album because of that. The mood was very different, and it's just about I think just capturing how you feel at a particular point in time, and it's a way of getting all those things out of your system, because a lot of things were very, very, very frustrating then, and I think that really shows on the album, because the mood it's very much different, just because of how everything was going on around us in the world during those pretty awful 2 years.
And how? So did you? Which song is about the pandemic?
I think we wrote more about the pandemic on this new album, Nighttime Signals, and I don't think that anything is kind of particular about it, but it's that kind of isolation that I think a lot of people felt, and that this kind of sense of kind of helplessness, I think is something that I've been writing about before, but it kind of really came to be important on this new album, just how vulnerable we can be, you know, something like that can just wipe out kind of social life for years, and that was frustrating. Even though pandemic in my case was very creative, you know, like I had so much time to write and to record and do all kinds of projects and stuff that I could never have done if it wasn't for the pandemic. So it was, for me, it's a great time, but also miserable, you know, emotionally.
What else would you have done? You're a full-time musician, no?
Yeah. Of course, I could have gotten a job or something like that, or I don't know, but instead I just doubled down and started a bunch of new bands and started recording and writing like crazy the entire pandemic.
Do you have now a label?
No, we don't have our own, but we are signed to, of course, to Century Records. But it's such a close and cool relationship that we've had for so many years that we're very, very good friends. And it's because we don't really, when it comes to the kind of the marketing and all those things, we like to keep it simple in terms of what we do. We like to focus on music and writing and touring, and the other stuff we leave to those who are better at it, like the record company.
And do you who are the other bands you did found? Are they still going? Or do you produce for them? Do you produce them?
No.
Are they signed with?
I don't. No. The bands on this tour are all kind of separate. I think maybe Wolfheart Moonspell used to be on social media as well. But these are just friends of ours and also bands that we want to tour with.
No, the bands you founded.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I just started this other band called The Halo Effect, which is on Nuclear Blast Records, and then started one band called Cemetery Skyline, which is on Centimeter Records, and another band called Gang Cadaver, it's on Majestic Mountain Records. So yeah, it's maybe I started a bit too much because it's a lot of work, but it's still super fun, and I work with some fantastic musicians and friends, so that makes it a whole lot easier.
And what's the first song on End Time Signals?
It's called Shivers and Voids, and I'm not sure if we play tonight, but we used to, and it's about anxiety and panic attacks, basically, and how devastating that can be.
Do you have anxiety and panic attacks?
Yeah, not that much, but I have experienced it many times, and it's kind of something I'm always kind of afraid of. And I try to stay as healthy as I can, mentally, but it's not easy. It's a lot of stress. It is a lot of hard work that you get through. So it's a matter of coping with it and trying to understand it, and hopefully knowing that what you're doing is maybe a bit too much, or that it's stressing you out, and you just need to take a few steps back and realize what you're doing, and hopefully that will get you through it. So it gets better each year, but it's something that I always think about, and that was in the back of my mind. It's like, now I have to take it easy and not kind of go down those dark roads that you sometimes do when you're...
Which dark roads?
No, it's just you tend to over-analyze things, or you just tend to focus on the most negative sides of things. And it's very easy to do when you're tired and you're far away from home, you're on the other side of the planet, and you have to perform, but you're tired and overworked, and and everybody's pulling at you at the same time and want you to do something, and you have 2 million emails that you need to answer and messages and all that stuff. And it can be overwhelming, and I try not to let that get to me, basically.
And did you have any bad experience? I just had an interview with TV Smith. Do you know him?
No.
He did start punk rock in Britain in the Roxy with the Damned.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, now I know, of course, yeah.
His manager got electrocuted on.
Ouch.
A lot of musicians get still.
Yeah, you can get a little bit from microphones.
Yeah.
It's not that bad, but of course it can be painful, and it's screwed up.
Yeah, and do you always did you start writing lyrics with poetry?
No, but I read a lot of poetry, and I used to write a lot when I was like in my late teens, early 20s. And sometimes I just write because I need to, and I can't sleep if I don't write, so I just write down whatever's on my mind and how I feel about certain things, and then I use that eventually into lyrics and kind of form it into. But I don't consider it poetry. It's more trains of thought and kind of like a stream of consciousness kind of writing, where you just write everything down so that you get rid of it for a while, and you have to think about it. But then maybe that comes into one of the songs eventually, or a song will trigger a memory or a feeling, and then I already written about it, and I go like, okay, I can use some of these phrases here or some of these words for a particular song that just strikes me in some way.
Did you ever score music for a movie?
No, I don't. I just, since I write lyrics and melodies, so I don't really write music that much. But our keyboard player has done a little bit like that, some commercials and stuff, and he's fantastic at it. But it's very time consuming. But it would be cool, but no, not for us.
So you, when you write, you just like la la la.
Yeah. Because,
you sing and
yeah, exactly. So I listen to the song and I figure out a way to make it to somehow have my voice and my words fit into it.
And what's the second song?
I don't know. Oh, it's called Unforgivable.
What's this about?
Well, it's about being kind of exiled from where you supposed to be, like when you forcibly relocated, basically. And a lot of people in the world right now have been forced away from their homes and their home countries because of religious persecution and wars and all that stuff. And I just cannot imagine that, because we're from Sweden, obviously. We've never experienced war in any memory. Even my grandmother, who was 100 when she died last year, was never part of a war. So we don't understand those things. So it's really hard to empathize with something that you fundamentally don't understand, and I feel very helpless when I read these stories about people who have to just leave everything and never return to where they're from and where they're raised and born and what all their started their life. So that's what the song's about.
And do you have interest in politics?
Yeah, of course. I mean, politics is incredibly important, and it governs and rules our daily lives. Maybe I didn't care too much when I was younger, but I realized, of course, that it affects everyone all the time. And so yeah, I sometimes I try not to, and I try to get away from it because it makes me frustrated and angry. But at the same time, I can't let go, and I need to just be informed at least.
Is there a good fund or trust that is interesting? That
No, I mean, there are several, of course, but for me, I donate stuff to like a Swedish charity that just, it's all about kind of helping people and having people informed, and that's for me the most important part. So people can just make good decisions when it comes to elections, for instance, and just try to be informed about what's going on in society in Sweden.
And why do you think the war started in Russia?
Because I don't know, for several different reasons, obviously, but mostly illegitimate reasons. Putin says that it belongs to Russia, but it doesn't. So I think it's horrible, and it's not going to stop. And if they take Ukraine, they're not going to stop, and then they will look to Finland and maybe to Sweden as well. And it's that I cannot even imagine. So yeah, it's really bad. We were just in Russia and Ukraine like 2 months before the war started, so it was something that felt really, really close. And we were in America when it started, and I had a lot of friends in Russia and in Ukraine who were all like incredibly affected by it. So it's been really, really horrible.
Would there be a solution? It's unbelievable, no?
Yeah.
But what would be the solution?
I don't know. If someone knows, then it would be great. But solution would be to not try to steal other people's countries. I think that would be a great solution, but that's not going to happen. That's not. So it's just a horrible situation. Also, it's something that you cannot do much about, so you should maybe let it go. But it's impossible for me.
What do you read at the moment?
I read mostly non-fiction. Last book I read was about nuclear war, which was really fascinating. Just like what would happen if it actually happened, but that kind of thing, like this kind of what if scenarios. I really like that. I like to read about religion and atheism, but I also read a lot old classic books, stuff that I kind of missed over the years that I didn't read when I was a kid, like George Orwell and that kind of stuff. But I try to always read, and I mostly listen to audiobooks when I'm out running or going around town or traveling. And, I really like that.
Did you religion? Are you? Is that a big theme in your music?
Atheism definitely is, and so I've written a lot about just rational thought and critical thinking. That, of course, is the perfect replacement for religion. If you think rationally and you understand the world for what it is, then you don't need religion anymore. I think the world will be a way, way, way better place if more people thought like that and not quarrel and kill each other over imaginary things.
Are you then a Satanist?
No, I'm just an atheist.
Do you can you explain what Satanism is and what happened with Behemoth and the?
No, but I mean Satanism is it's basically atheism where you kind of focus more on the individual. It's not about believing in evil or good or evil or in any deity or anything like that. It's basically atheism where you focus on humanity.
Well,
but of course, that's very offensive to religious people. Like if you say like I don't believe in all the stupid things that you believe, then that's very offensive, and people get really, really mad. And what happened to I don't know if I know, like for instance, Behemoth were arrested in Russia because they had an album called The Satanist, and they have very, very strong religious beliefs in Russia, so they threw them in jail, and then they were not allowed to come back for 5 years in Russia. And that's religious prosecution, and it's fucking horrible. I hate that. And why should religion dictate anything for people who don't believe? And it's the same in America, where they claim that, you know, if you're a Christian, then you're against abortion. It's like, yeah, but what about the people who don't believe in God? Then let them do what the fuck they want. And I hate that.
But why do so many Satanists then use so cruel and scary?
But that's an image thing. That's an image thing that a lot of black metal bands and all these things work. And that I think that's a very different kind of belief system or theology. I don't. Again, like, I'm an atheist. I don't like any kind of belief system at all. But I think mostly it's for show. You know, you do it because it's kind of fascinating and cool, and there's a lot of kind of religious imagery and look and that comes with it. That is, you know, attractive to a lot of people, and to me too. I like it, but at the same time, I don't subscribe to any of the beliefs.
Because you're interested then in religion, you read it up.
Of course. It's really fascinating to read and to learn how it makes people think, you know, or act, and what kind of drives certain societies, you know.
So you're interested in discussion or into finding the way how they think to change it,
I'm not going to change anyone's mind, but I'm fascinated to kind of try to understand why people would believe in certain things, you know, that you cannot prove to be true, basically.
And why is that I make now since a long time interviews with metal bands. Why is metal so unpopular? Why does metal want to be unpopular?
I don't think it is unpopular. I think I mean the reason you start like a band in any way, like, is to do something for yourself, like, where it's one thing to make music that you know people are gonna love. You can kind of cater, you can make music that to make sure that the most broad audience will like it. That's one thing, and it's fine. But for me, you know, I like really obscure music that nobody listens to, and I love that. And I think music should be very individual. It should be something that you create together with your friends, or, you know, your musicians. And if it's specifically kind of made to just be popular or just to be pleasing to everyone else, then you write pop music, you know. And this is not it. And the cool thing is that there are enough fans of this kind of music that you can play anywhere in the world, and it's fantastic. So I don't think it is unpopular at all. It's just very particular. Like, it's a narrow kind of fan base, of course, because it's not for everybody, and it shouldn't be, because music should be individual, and music should be something that you're very, very deeply passionate about. It's very hard for me, at least, to be very passionate about music that is just broad, you know, like pop or basic rock stuff. And it's just, yeah, it's fine, well made, it's cool, but it doesn't make me feel anything. But if a band makes something very unique to their own sensibilities, based on their experience and based on their kind of sensibilities and ideas, then it becomes something unique. And maybe that's not for everybody, but that's the kind of music that I enjoy, and I think that's the kind of music we like to make as well.
And what's metal about?
I think mostly, for me at least, the music that I like is music with like a strong emotional core, like that it means something, because you can express really different kind of emotions in metal, you know, because you're screaming on the top of your lungs, you know, as loud as you possibly can. Usually, if you're doing that, you have something on your mind, you have something that you want to express, that you want to scream about, and it should be. And I think like metal music can be very silly and very, I don't know, like-minded or simple, but at the same time it can be very complex and thought-provoking and challenging. and I think just the fact that it kind of deals with like more like darker themes or more negative themes or emotional things that maybe are not just about, you know, cheery love and whatever. It's a thing that is most attractive to me when I started listening to metal. It was the kind of darker force that you felt from the music, or that it kind of explored, and I think that's metal for me.
And all the splatter metal bands that sing about murder and stuff.
I still like that kind of music, and I love some of those bands, and I think it's a fun thing because it's the same thing that draws you to horror movies or to comic books or whatever, because it's just out there, you know, it's extreme, you know, and the further extreme you go, the more attractive it gets to some people, and I think that's cool, you know. It may get boring after a while, and it's not that inventive, but at the same time, you know, when I got into it when I was a teenager, it was the coolest thing in the world.
And so you're not secretly a Britney Spears fan?
No, I have a lot of guilty pleasures and bands that I like that are very, very far from metal, but I'm not ashamed of it. I like good music is good music. I don't really.
But what does it mean, guilty pleasures?
No, but you know, just like 80s pop stuff that I absolutely love, and you know, and I'll gladly listen to Britney Spears every once in a while. It's made by fantastic musicians and songwriters and producers. Most of them are from Sweden, and so I'm all for it, that kind of stuff.
Do you know them?
No.
Do you did you listen to Ace of Base?
Yeah, I used to. Yeah, they're from my part of Sweden. Like I see them. Yeah, they live in almost the same area that I grew up.
And so, what's your next goals?
Just keep touring. We're gonna tour the world starting today. So that's all that we're focused on right now. We're gonna go to Asia. We're gonna go to Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Korea, China, North America, South America, and then back Europe again. So yeah, that's all we're focused on. Right.
Did you shoot a documentary about this?
We did a documentary about the band maybe 15 years ago, something like that. It's called Out of Nothing. It's on YouTube, and but that's the only one we've done. But that was about kind of the start of the band and the beginning of how we started and how up to that point until it was out in 16, I think.
And would you do one again?
I don't know if it's needed, but we do. There was they did a TV show in Sweden about metal, kind of that is being exported outside of Sweden. Like the bands that are bigger outside of Sweden than they are in Sweden, and we were one of those bands. And it was the kind of complete history of how death metal started in Gothenburg. So I think they did such a great job with that documentary that we don't have to do it because everything is already there. So there's already a really fantastic documentary about how it kind of started for us and how it's kind of escalated and how our music is reaching out to all corners of the world, basically.
Do you keep the same? So you have the same since 10 years.
The same what?
The front of house.
Yeah. 15 years maybe.
And actually, I wanted to. I brought a camera too. So. Do you have a family?
Yeah.
And they're all on tour.
No.
And do you get a lot of fan mail?
No, we get a lot of messages obviously from people online, like on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, and a lot of really positive messages and stuff. So that's fantastic. So we have a lot of contact with our fans for sure.
Do you read the music press?
Yeah. I read a lot of music magazines, and I subscribe to a few. And so yeah, I love reading about other bands, and I love reading about artists that I look up to. So yeah.
What's your favorite stories and interviews?
I like more deep dives. I like there's a magazine in Sweden where they sometimes do like long exposés on certain musicians or bands that stretch for like 5 issues or something like that, and it's just like a deep dive, almost kind of like a biography about a band, because they go so deep and they interview everybody around bands and all this stuff. It's really fascinating. It's a good insight into the stuff that you normally don't read, because normal interviews with maybe the guitar player or the singer or whatever, that's maybe not as interesting, but hearing everybody around them and kind of like to create like a full picture of a band or an artist, I think is fascinating. So I really love that.
So about not about groupies and tour things, so more like what's it called? Autopsy of everything, like how did.
I'm fascinated to see like how the bands work, and especially like historically, like how things were so different in the 70s or 60s or 80s even, and so it's just fascinating. Also like reading about other people's views on how this kind of life is, and how everybody treats it differently. I have so many friends, of course, in the music industry, but I like to read about the ones that I've never met or never seen or never got the chance to see.
Okay, and what do you have maybe questions? What do you are they interviews about the band mechanics and stuff?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I like that. Every aspect of it is kind of fascinating. Of course, you hear it from your friends, but also it's fun to read about them outside. That part is just.
What's the magazine called?
No, it's one called Sweden Rock Magazine actually. It's really good, and there used to be one called Close Up that I still kind of read online. So Close Up Magazine is fantastic.
Because yeah. Okay, I'll read that up. Now I'm. So, why did you change so often the constellation of the band?
Well, it's out of necessity, basically. I mean, for the first 20 years we were the same, 5 guys, almost 6, and then I think, as you get older, priorities shift. So someone will realize that maybe I don't want to tour this much, or maybe I want to spend more time with family, or I want to do something else. And that happens as because we do this very seriously. We've been in it and very close, and we travel a lot, and we tour a lot, and that's not for everybody. And then just sometimes that changes, and you go like, yeah, maybe I need to do something else for a while. And I really respect that. And then most people who kind of left the band in the last couple of years have been more like, one guy, Anderson, like he had this fantastic job as a teacher on the side, and he just grew more and more into it, and he didn't want to leave his students basically because he loved them and he cared about them deeply. So he realized that if I'm going to be away, I'm just going to lose all that. And then, then we said like, okay, if you want to come back in the future, you can do that. But for now, that's good. Like, stick to your work, And so it's priorities, I think, and the fact that we all change as we get old.
What would you have to do to get as big as
We need to. Okay. Yes, sir. I have an interview and already like.
Okay, it's just one question. To get as big as what's her name? Britney Spears. What's involved in this?
I think different priorities in the management, and you have to put a lot of hard work into it. And we wouldn't be interested in that kind of stuff. That's not for us. I mean, this is a different path you lead, and the cool part is you make the most out of those kind of like narrow genre fans. You know, and I think that's cool. So I wouldn't even want to. This is perfect for us.
Yeah. Metallica.
Yeah, same there. I mean, they started out really small, but they just kept working and touring like crazy, and you know, gained a huge following. You know, just because of the hard work that they put in. So I appreciate that, and I admire that.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.